Hey guys, welcome or welcome back. Tisha here, back for another segment of It's Getting Real. Go ahead and do me a favor and hit the like button as we get into this. I'm letting you guys know right now that this is a heavy story. The details of what was done to Janiyah Russell breaks my heart. I just happened to stumble upon this. This isn't even what I originally had planned to upload this week. I was looking into something else, but this came across my feed because of another content creator, and I'm going to make sure that I leave his link in the description box because listening to what he put out there, which is over 2 hours of content, I felt like I needed to say something too. Because when I typed in the name Janiyah Russell on YouTube and on the internet, there's very little information out there. And I think it's extremely sad that cases like these aren't spoken about. I didn't even know anything about this beautiful little girl until I heard her case the other day via YouTube. So I'm going to make sure that I leave that link. I'm going to play little portions of things in here. I'm not going to put it on the page because I don't want to get struck for copyright reasons, but I want to make sure that we were giving this video as much views as we can because he did a lot of detailed research. Like he even paid to get police reports and things of that nature. He has information that isn't out there on the net. So I feel like, it would be nice if we can support him. Let's go ahead and get into this. Janiyah Russell was born on August the 26th, 2014. I did not locate her mother's name. Her father's name is Richard Davis. She was known for her infectious laughter and boundless energy. She had a unique charm that drew people to her. She was playful and lovable and curious. It was said that she was happy, and as you can see in the thumbnail, she was always smiling. She loved her siblings. She was very protective of them over her brother and her sister, and she always wanted to help. She loved watching Paw Patrol, and her grandmother added that she had a beautiful soul. There isn't more about her that I found out there, unfortunately, because her time on earth was so short, because she was only here for 5 years. So let's jump to 2018. It's a year before Janiyah's death. Janiyah's mother calls social services in Colorado because she doesn't feel like she's providing for her daughter. When I first heard that, I thought, okay, here we go. Yet again, another person who seems to have family that's out there that isn't willing to step in, yet here they are and they're complaining. Yet another one of those cases where the family didn't do their part. But there's a lot more to this story. So Janiyah ends up in foster care. She's there for a short time when Richard Davis, who has not been in his daughter's life for the past 4 years, finds out. Now, I'm not sure if it was a thing where CPS contacted him or whether the mom let him know, but either way, he knows that she is there and he goes to see his daughter in foster care. Now, I don't know what that looked like. I don't know if it was at a point where he was monitored while he was doing that, if it was where he saw her at the foster care facility or whether he was able to take her off the premises, because things were said about those interactions, including the fact that Janiyah had told several individuals from her family that her father was touching her inappropriately. Now, I don't know what exactly was said, but it was something that was of concern. The claims, however, weren't really looked into. She told multiple people in Colorado, but no one looked into the allegations. We'll talk about that a little bit more when I read what her Aunt Sarah had to say. So Richard offers to take Janiyah back to Las Vegas so that his daughter is in his custody. Janiyah's grandmother, I'm going to say her name wrong, so I'm going to just spell it Tirzah Russell, and other relatives are against it. They felt like he hadn't been there for her all these years, so why would he be there now? And why should he have gotten her now? I personally agree. I think that the system rushed to get her out of foster care without doing proper research. And I think that when it comes to cases like these, you really have to check things out. Like, what kind of environment was she going back to? Was this a thing where he had appropriate lodging? Was this a thing where the child was comfortable with him, especially because she hadn't known him for all these years? A page called Justice for Janiyah has been created. And on that page, Janiyah's Aunt Sarah wrote this. Hey everyone, it's Sarah Russell, Janiyah's aunt. I'm going to share a little bit of the backstory of how and why Janiyah was sent away to Vegas to clear up any confusion. We found out Janiyah and her sister went into the system a day before my sister came to Colorado to live with us. So they had no idea prior to this that she had released her kids because contact with them was limited. Let me continue. I have no idea where she was beforehand. She commented on a picture of my mom and I, which allowed us to open a door of communication with her. When my mom spoke to her again, she was sleeping in her van while pregnant and told us she didn't have her kids anymore. So my mom told her to come and stay with us so she could get back on her feet and get her kids back. We were stable at the time and couldn't understand why she hadn't reached out to us and asked us for help before putting them in foster care. I personally had no communication with her prior to that for at least a year, and she wasn't on any social media. Plus, I was still in my teens when this was happening. At that time, my sister was messing with the man she was pregnant by, and he was very controlling and manipulative. She left him, which prompted her to leave the comment. So the only reason why they got in any contact with her in the first place was because she had a breaking off period with her child's father, which she didn't have the baby yet. She was pregnant at the time. I ain't even gonna go on that. Y'all already know I got a problem with the fact that you keep having these babies even though you're struggling to take care of the ones that you have. But that's a whole nother story. That's not what this is about. So after a few months, she finally got her girls back, and that's how we came into contact with Janiyah after a year and a half. My mom asked Janiyah if anyone had messed with her in foster care, and she told her a girl would beat me up. But my mom had a suspicion it was something more than that. So she told CPS in Colorado that she believed Janiyah was being touched in foster care, and they told us, we'll look into it. Here's the thing, nobody ever looked into it. She says no matter how many times she followed up with them, they said the same thing, that they would look into it. So at some point, this shows that her family was trying. She continues, my sister was very emotional and mentally unstable. If she was mentally unstable, why would CPS be okay with her handing over her kids? I would think that they may have wanted to talk to the family, but maybe that's how the father got contacted. I'm not sure. I'm just speculating here, right? So much so that we got into a physical altercation, and as I was protecting my nieces and nephew before she made the choice to send them with all of their dads. So it wasn't just Janiyah that was sent off. I was conflicted after I found out Janiyah was killed, thinking if I hadn't fought for her, maybe she wouldn't have reached her breaking point. But the other part of me knew I did what I had to do to protect them. Oh, so she's saying if she didn't fight for them, then maybe this wouldn't have happened. But no, you needed to fight for them. Don't blame yourself for trying to fight. Everyone who knew my sister begged and pleaded with her to keep them with us, but she wouldn't listen. My mom even contacted a couple of friends asking them if they would take them in, but were unable to. At this point, my sister just wanted to get away from us as soon as possible. Any conversation we had turned into arguments, and she shut her ears to anything we had to say. My sister and I never had the best relationship, but we were making amends when she left the man who was controlling. It all went downhill when he came back into the picture. We did everything in our power to delay, report, or change her mind. Unfortunately, she was at the place where if we tried to keep them from her, she would have called 911 and reported us for kidnapping. Something needs to be done about how these situations are handled, because for them to feel like they were in this place where they couldn't help this child because either way it would cause problems, they were risking feeling like she would try to file a report against them or something like that. Something needs to be put in place for matters like these. She continues, I am far from perfect as the Lord is still healing me from this traumatic experience and my behaviors that came from it. But I loved and raised Janiyah like she was my own daughter. Her sister called me mom before she called me Nini. And if I had any vision into the future, I would have laid down my own life and traded places with her. So, despite my original thoughts that they did not try, this is showing that they did. But the problem is, we have a system, and I'm going to keep saying it, that continues to drop the ball in these matters. So, Richard gets her because the mother agrees. I don't think that she was in the position to do anything, especially hearing all of that, but they let her do it. So, her grandmother's against it. Her grandmother has a video where she says, I'm talking to my mommy when he's being mean to me. Mommy told me, don't let my dad touch me, and then he's still touching me at the house. It breaks my heart. I halfway want to play the clip for you. Maybe I'll do it a little bit later. But there were signs there that something was going on. She was 4 years old and she spoke so clearly to say that. She was 4 years old, and at that point, she already knew that she was being mistreated by her father. So Janiyah is sent to live with her father. The family doesn't hear from her again or see her again until she's in a casket. It's horrible. So we're going to jump to September 11th, 2019. A call to 911 is made at around 7:45 a.m. The person on the other end of the line is Shavonna Miller. Now, her name is said so many different ways that I'm not quite sure how to pronounce it. So I'm probably going to say it wrong a few times, or I might just say Miller. She's claiming to be the babysitter of a little girl that is unresponsive. Now she's calling herself the babysitter, but she's dating Janiyah's father. She says she gave the little girl that she was babysitting a bath. She doesn't know what's going on at this point. She doesn't know if the little girl is awake. Yes, she keeps calling her little girl, completely disconnecting herself from the situation. She doesn't know if the little girl's unconscious. She doesn't know if the little girl passed out. She doesn't even know if she's breathing. That comment alone lets me know there's foul play here and she's full of crap. Because the first thing any person would do, whether it be someone you know or not, if you see someone laying there and they're not responding and they're unconscious, you would check to see if they're breathing. Your baby's on the floor. Check and see if they're okay. Your baby's on the couch, the bed, wherever. Check and see if they're okay. She says all she knows is that her eyes are kind of open and that she's 5. She's told to put her ears near the young lady's mouth to see if she's breathing. I personally don't think she did that, because normally if somebody's doing something like that, you'll hear a little bit of rattling or something on the other end. This 911 call doesn't do it. Unless what I heard was the content creator clearing it up, it's a no for me. So she tells the operator that she found her like this on the couch. The dispatcher is trying to walk her through how to perform CPR, and this chick stops to explain what happened. Who does that? Who is trying to explain anything at this point when your first priority would be to make sure that this baby is breathing? That would be the last thing on my mind, is telling you the story of what happened that I think may have got her to this point. But what she's really trying to do is she's trying to set the tone for what her story is going to be when the officers arrive at the scene. So she starts talking about how some girls in the neighborhood kind of bullied her yesterday, that, she played outside the other day and she got jumped. They beat her up, and maybe that caused this. If that was the case, they should have taken her to the hospital, but I think that she's lying. She's told again how to perform CPR. She says that she's doing it, but there's nothing going on sound wise that would make me believe that that lady was doing it. So the ambulance arrives a few minutes later. When they come in, Janiyah is on the floor. She does not have a pulse and she is not breathing. Miller tells first responders that she checked on Janiyah at around 4 a.m. and she was fine. So the paramedics are beginning to work on her. They cut her shirt open. I'm going to assume to probably use a defibrillator or something like that. And they immediately see bruising on various areas of her little body. She has bruising on her face and her torso. That's what they noticed just at the scene. So Siobhan tells them the same story that she just told the 911 dispatcher. That Janiyah got into a fight the previous day with some girls in the neighborhood. She is rushed to Sunshine Hospital, where they quickly discover that her body temperature was 88 degrees. They note immediately that she is covered in bruises, you guys. She had bruises around her eyes, her forehead, her lips, her neck, her arms, her legs, her left ear, and her stomach. She also had lacerations to the inner surface of her lip. There was bruising on her bottom as well that appeared to be at least 48 hours old. She was found to have 3 broken ribs, and at autopsy, it was quickly determined that the ribs were broken from something other than CPR, despite Miller saying that that might be why, because Miller is going to try to excuse. Matter of fact, I got a clip. I'm gonna play it so you can hear it. Here we go.
What happened when I did CPR on her? Because I was pushing her whole body.
These lacerations, I told you, we see this in airplane crash victims.
I love you.
Did y'all hear that? She's blaming stuff on CPR. And she's being told by the detective that this is something that they see in airplane crash victims. We'll get back to it. So she had bruising on her lungs and hemorrhaging around her right adrenal gland. And with all the things that were done to Janiyah, the thing that they say led to her death was a laceration to her liver. You guys, when they took out the pictures of her liver, the liver was smashed to the point where you just heard the detectives describe her body and say how it looked like something that they see in airplane victims. That's how bad this was. The laceration to the liver caused 500 milliliters of blood to be found in Janiyah's abdomen. This laceration meant that she was deceased before she got to the hospital, because that type of blow is estimated to unalive a child within minutes. Understand that this baby was tortured. Upon further examination, the doctor found tears to her genitals that were believed to be consistent with SA. Now, there's not a whole bunch of detail about that, because a lot of that is under, lock and key. There are certain things that they redact when they send off paperwork and things of that nature. But I saw where the image shows some of what they believe to be done. It's believed to be from blunt force trauma and from a foreign object. Now, DNA was taken from her fingernails and her genitals. Semen was found in both places, and her death is later ruled a homicide. I'm going to let you all know now that the semen that was found inside of her was not enough to be match to anyone. It wasn't enough to be tested. And it took a long time for them to get any type of results as far as the DNA that was under her fingernails. So while at the hospital, Miller is questioned by detectives, one of which notices that she has some scratches on her head. This lady's story changed so many times in regards to the events before Janiyah's death, and none of it makes sense. At the hospital, she begins with the same story that she was telling, 911 dispatcher, which was that on September 10th, 2019, which would be the day before, Janiyah was outside playing. She came back in the house crying out around 4 or 5. Any other adult, if she had the type of injuries that she's saying were caused by this fight, would have done their due diligence to seek medical treatment and or find out who did this to her child, their child, a child, any person. She claims that she did go outside, but nobody was out there. Her clothes were messed up. She had a black eye. She does not mention the black eye, however, until after the first couple of interviews. I believe it was her second interview where she mentioned it. She was dirty and getting roughed up or something, is what Miller said, with Miller also claiming that she did try to seek if anybody was out there, but then saying she didn't try to do it because she would have fought them, and then saying that her main priority was taking care of Janiyah. She didn't check. That was a lie. There's no way to tell, though, because there's no mention of detectives knocking on doors or doing questioning to see that. Now, I don't know if it's out there and it's just something that's not known. And I'm wondering now, based on what I found, if one of the reasons why there's a lot that's still not out there is because they're still working with stuff with her father. I'm not sure. We'll get to it. I'm going to say that they dropped the ball. So Janiyah's father, Richard Davis, was gone during the time that Miller claims that Janiyah was in the neighborhood fight. Footage shows that at the time of the fight, the time that she's saying it happened, that her father was actually at Popeyes with another gentleman. On the footage, he looks like he's frustrated, but you don't know. That could be because of Popeye service because they're so slow. According to Miller, that evening after the incident happened, Janiyah was given dinner and a bath, but the story later changed to the bath was given that following morning. So who knows what they really did. She claims that she stepped out to smoke while Janiyah was in the bath. When she came back in, Janiyah was laid like kind of sideways on her stomach, taking in water, like drinking the water or breathing in water. This makes absolutely no sense to me, but we're going to continue with her lies. So she claims that after that, everything was fine, that the daughter, as I said, ate dinner around 8. Father is home. She's put to bed. They check on her a few times. They go to sleep. One of the times that she's checked on is around 4 a.m. when the father is getting up because he's prepared to go to donate some plasma. First time she claims that she checked her. Second interview, she says that she didn't check on her. She just went and locked the door, but she was fine. There is footage that shows that around 5, Richard is on a bus heading into town. So he's gone. Cheve, I keep wanting to say her name. Chevion is what I got up here. Siobhan, I don't know. Miller gets up to check on Janiyah again. This time she says she pulls back the covers, saying Janiyah was staring at her, but they didn't say anything to one another. She thought she was playing. She kept on saying that the girl was dramatic and she thought she was playing. It went from she could take a beating, she didn't yell out a whole bunch, with stuff like that, to she was dramatic. So Miller lays back down for about 30 more minutes and she realizes, like, wait a second, something's off. Normally Janiyah would come to the room, knock on the door, call my name, something, and she's not doing any of that. So that's when she claims to go and check on her again, and she noticed that she had that same look in her eyes. I personally don't feel like any of that makes sense, but whatever. She says, and so I was just like, okay, something's wrong. I called her dad at the plasma donation center because his phone only works with Wi-Fi and he left it here. And then I called the hospital. I don't know if she meant 911, or if she meant like she called the hospital where he was at. I don't know why she called the father first or why the phone call lasted for 6 minutes. But that's what she said she did. Maybe it's because she already knew that Janiyah was gone. Here's my question to you guys. Based on what we've heard so far, do you think that this is truthful? Because I don't. Let me continue. So that's when she called 911. Detectives are struggling to follow her story. It's hours after Janiyah passes, and they decide to take Miller back to the scene. She tells yet another story, this time saying that she administered her version of CPR before she called 911. After she does the demonstration, she's told that blood was found in the tub and in the sink, that they ran tests for the blood, and she's shown where it's at. I don't understand why the crime scene was released so quickly, or why they didn't collect more things like belts or boxing gloves or other things that we saw on the scene floor. Like, I don't even know if they collected all the towels, if they looked at the items that were in the trash can, because at one point she said she cleaned the blood off of her mouth, but she put it in the trash, and then she fixed it and said she put it in the toilet. So, like, there's a lot of stuff to me that goes unanswered, but what do I know? I also don't understand why neither one of those people, why Miller or Richard, were arrested that night, because after the way that things were described and after the interview that was done, they both should have been locked up right away. So Richard is interviewed. He admits that on Sunday, he disciplined his daughter for allegedly being inappropriate with some kids that they were babysitting, saying that she removed their diapers and she did something. I don't know what that something is. It was redacted. Here's my thing. Let's say she did do something inappropriate or something of concern. What he did in reaction to that was uncalled for. Very uncalled for. Detectives ask if Janiyah has ever been SA'd. He says no, she just went through some stuff with her mother. Real easy to say that. She went through some stuff with her mom when we don't know what those things are. Other than her being homeless and her being put into foster care, we don't know what else she faced because there's very little out there. He says all he knows is that she has night sweats. That may be a sign of something else. I personally would want to get my child looked at, but apparently everybody doesn't think that way. So he admits that when the situation supposedly happened with her allegedly taking off the baby's diaper, that he admitted to hitting her with a belt on her bottom, on her bare bottom, at least 20 times on Sunday. He says that he was angry because what she did was bad. He even admitted to hitting her so much that he saw like bruising or something on her bottom. And as a result, he stopped because he thought, oh, wait, I went too far. So after she got that beating, he then proceeds to have this baby who just got tore up for whatever she did and have her stand in a corner as further punishment for 30 minutes. Do you see this precious face on my screen? There is nothing in my mind that she could have done to warrant the treatment that she got from these two cowards that are on the bottom of this thumbnail. Nothing. Nothing. And I should have put a different picture up of the chick, because that picture makes her look like she's humane, and she's not. Neither one of them are. So he's asked if he may have missed her bottom with the belt and hit her legs. He answered possibly. Detectives already know that he's lying because they saw severe bruising to her legs. Richard claims that he didn't do it often. And when he did do it, he used a belt that didn't have a clasp or buckle. Like that makes it any better. I personally have been hit with a belt. And let me tell you something, buckle or not, the mess hurts. So you're doing this to a 5-year-old multiple times while you're angry, you're really, really doing too much. You're going too far. I just don't like y'all. We got to stop with this corporal punishment. We got to. You sit here and you beat on these kids like that, and you wonder why they grow up to do the things that they do, or why they grow up to hate you. At some point, you got to realize there's something else. Once again, she was 5. Let that sink in. Look at this precious baby. She was 5. In July, because the lady gets arrested the next day. I don't know what goes on with him, because he was able to do her funeral and all these other things. So I think he's free. Eventually charges are filed against him, but I don't know where he's at. I can't say. If you guys know, put it down below. So in July, a jury convicts Miller on the murder and child abuse charges for the death of Janiyah Russell. During her sentencing, Chief Deputy District Attorney Michelle Job said Janiyah was injured literally from head to the top of her knees, inside out. In her grandmother's impact statement, she said this: I think I planted the grandchildren seed in my children too soon, because at 17, my daughter would give birth to my first granddaughter. I would forever be known as Grammy to Janiyah Abriella Russell, or so I thought. The last day I saw Janiyah alive was September 2nd, 2018. Before I left for work, we sat on the balcony on a beautiful Colorado afternoon. Matter of fact, I don't know if that's what the video is, but I'll continue. We talked, laughed, took pictures, and prayed. I fit in as many hugs and kisses as time would allow, while at my core, my heart was breaking, not knowing when I would see or talk to her again. The last thing I told her was that Jesus would protect her. With no way to talk to Janiyah, I had to believe that she was enjoying her time with her dad, Richard, and his family. On September 13, 2019, I received a phone call that would callously ruin the stability of my routine and wholly collapse the foundation built on my faith. My Janiyah, Grammy baby, was dead. Sleep was evasive. As the phone call played on a loop each time I closed my eyes, my stomach would tie up in knots as I imagined the unrelenting pain she suffered. Guilt. I ate and drank guilt on a steady schedule. What could I have said to Janiyah's mom so she would change her mind about sending Janiyah to Las Vegas with her father? What could I have done different? Why didn't I try harder to reach Janiyah to see how she was doing? To this day, these questions are like a disease to my mind. I have other grandchildren that I love so tenderly, but I am so afraid to get attached to bond with them. The irony of that is I want them all with me so I know that they are safe and that they won't be taken away from me. Even so, I realize that tomorrow is not promised. It's not fair that I cannot celebrate milestones with Janiyah, such as her 8th birthday that just passed on August 26th. Every year, 16 days after her birthday, I will have to prepare for the day she was killed. I cannot wrap any of my thought process around this cruelty. I have lost my sanity, at times wanting to exit this heartless world. I still see Janiyah in every chocolate 4-year-old with a big smile, big smiling eyes, and a lot of thick dark hair up in ponytails. I cannot unsee the horrific photos taken of the battered body of my first granddaughter. I yearn for my grandbaby. I ache at my core. I want to take her place so she can live. I lose sleep, desire, ambition, peace, faith, joy. I have lost time, the willingness to forgive, trust, finances. Trying to outwit the anguish that Grammy's baby's death has caused me is like trying to pass off a Great Dane as a house cat. When will this deep sleep seated aching in my soul ease? I'm not the same. My faith is not the same. I am less because of the immeasurable part of me that was my first grandbaby. Janiyah Abriella Russell died and was buried with her on September 24th, 2019. Y'all, that's so... The reality of that situation, I'm sure that is something that replays time and time and time again in the hearts of those family members, because they tried to save her, but did they try enough? That's something that they probably constantly ask themselves. Following the statement, District Judge Tiara Jones sentenced Miller to between 20 to 50 years in prison for first-degree murder and child abuse, neglect, or endangerment resulting in substantial bodily harm. I'm going to be honest, she should have got life. You knew that you were doing too much to that baby, and you didn't try to save that baby. That's my opinion, and that's how I feel, and that's how I'm sticking to it. And you didn't take the necessary steps to really get her aid. Instead, what it sounds like y'all did was you kept beating on her, the both of you. There is no way that she had those type of marks on her body that were from 48 hours ago, and they were as bad as they were, and she had the bruising and all those other things, and the two of you weren't aware of what one another was doing. I refuse to believe it. So Richard David faces charges of murder and 6 counts of child abuse, neglect, or endangerment resulting in substantial bodily harm. He was scheduled to go to trial in February, according to court records, but I didn't see anything that came of it. To my understanding, he still hasn't went to trial. As I said, I couldn't find anything. As far as Miller, she declined to give a statement to the judge during the hearing. Her defense attorney, Connor Sliff, said that Richard Davis was more culpable for the girl's death. I don't know if I would say more, maybe just as. I feel like in this instant, the both of them are guilty, and the fact that it's trying to be brushed off on one, the way that girl sat there and lied and told so many different versions of this story, I refuse to believe that she wasn't aware that what she did was wrong. Her attorney said, I still think he's the real monster in this case, not Miss Miller. Well, I beg to differ. I think they're both monsters. The district attorney felt differently, stating, Miller should face 31 years to life in prison for not seeking help for Janiyah before her death. Exactly. Frankly, she has shown no remorse. She has shown no care for this child. She has shown no care for what happened to this child. And I agree, because even in the video, the little bit of times where she did make sounds like she was crying, it wasn't because of the death of this child. It was because she was worried about what was going to happen to her. If she was going to go to jail, what's next? What's next? She's asking that several times. The girl even came in there the next day with cuts and stuff around her neck and her arms, making it seem like she was trying to off herself because she claimed she was so distraught. So there was a lot of manipulation going on here, that they're trying to make it seem like this chick isn't guilty when I feel like she is. After the hearing, Janiyah's grandmother said that she was angry at the sentence. They should have given her life. She took life. And not only did she take a life, but she took a child's life. I agreed. Now, Miller tried to appeal the court's decision in August of 2024, but the decision was upheld and denied. Janiyah's life, in my opinion, though brief, left a mark on her family and community, reminding everyone of the importance of cherishing each moment. Janiyah Russell will always be remembered as a bright light, a source of happiness, and a beloved child who touched the lives of many. I hope that this baby is still resting in peace, because my goodness, she suffered so much. You guys, if you get a chance, please go and look at that video. There's so much that I left out because I wanted to make sure that I just focus more so on Janiyah. You all know that that's one of the things that I try to do when it comes to these situations, because we often focus on the people who have committed the crime rather than those who are no longer here. But that video really, really does give a lot of detail into what Miller did and how she played a part in this. Richard, not so much. There's a lot that's not out there, and I wonder why. I want to know what it is that they're holding close to the chest and why it is that we don't know more. This is something that I'm going to continue to follow. If you have the opportunity opportunity, go and look on the Facebook page and read some of the things that the family is saying on that Justice for Janiyah page, because I think that this is a thing where sometimes it requires us to take a stand and for us to say something and for us to share this story. So if this story gets out and is able to help anyone, I hope it serves its purpose. I really, really feel like this is a tragedy that could have been avoided. And I hope you continue to rest in peace, Janiyah. Until next time.